Ladies and gentlemen, you are in the presence of a driving legend. No, not me, believe it or not, I am a bit more modest than that. This is a 1992 Lotus Carlton, the original bad boy saloon. This car is one of many worked on by the skilled team at John Ashley. Yes, I'm still there, still working my way through the wonderful collection that the very kind people down there have. And this car is owned by one of the directors at John Ashley, and it's been a childhood dream for him to buy this car, and I totally get it. Now, I was talking with my erstwhile assistant Darren earlier, and I said to him that actually, I must confess, I don't love the Lotus Carlton. I get it, I respect it, I know what it is, but I don't love it, I don't lust after it, which is strange because I do actually have a bit of a thing for big, silly, fast saloons. Perhaps I'm just slightly the wrong age for it, and I maybe grew up in slightly the wrong bit of Essex, but this car is a bit naughty. In fact, the car's owner has very early memories of driving around town in the wee small hours with a number of gentlemen doing business in their Vauxhall Carlton GSI, and it is the sort of car that I can imagine doing business in. And whether you worked in a business that measured everything in grams, or you were a major accountant, or perhaps a successful builder, this is the sort of car that I can see someone wanting. But you wouldn't be a quiet, down-to-earth type. You'd probably have a few tattoos to go with it, because this is a thug of a car. Now we're cruising along here, and the funny thing about this car is that although, as you can see, it is covered in Lotus badges, the one thing it absolutely doesn't feel like at all is a Lotus. The only control that I've got to hand that feels actually precise is the gear change, a box donated from the Chevrolet Corvette ZR1. A 6-speed item, which in 1992 must have been a little bit space-aged. However, moving this car down the road, even at normal speeds, and I know it can go down this road at very abnormal speeds, it's actually quite ponderous. It's very soft, very wallowy. You can feel everything moving about. The steering is somewhat delayed. You have to let the car get set up and get ready for the corner. You can't just chuck it around. It certainly wouldn't forgive that at all. It's not very shouty either. This car is pretty standard performance-wise, and the exhaust has had a couple of bits replaced, but it is no louder than stock, and, well, it's very discreet. I mean, let's face it, if you didn't know what this was and it went past, you would just go, oh, blimey, I haven't seen a Carlton in ages. And I don't think the Carlton was ever a particularly sexy car. That is until Lotus got their hands on it. I do intend on doing a bit of a feature with either this car or one very much like it, because they all do look exactly the same in this shade Lotus called Imperial Green. I will soon be doing a feature looking at these cars and their history in a little bit more depth, but today is simply a first drive, and that's what I really want to talk about. I'm sure many of you know the story, the numbers, the history, but I instead want to see what this car's actually really like to hustle down a road, and it's a real privilege to be allowed to do that. Now, I've just come out of a 996 Turbo, and on paper these two cars are fairly similar. They both have 3.6 litre, 6-cylinder, twin turbocharged engines. The Porsche allegedly puts out a bit more power, about 420 horsepower, versus the Carlton's more or less 380, although people generally admit the fact that this probably was a conservative estimate. The Carlton, meanwhile, has a little bit more torque, about 419 pound-foot. And I want to just underline that torque figure. That's more than my supercharged E92 puts out ever. It's a lot. Oh, it moves. It's very progressive, very linear. In fact, the turbos spool up in a much more predictable and linear way than in that 911, which is quite surprising considering the fact that this car has a clear decade on the Porsche. I don't know why I'm really using the Porsche as a point of reference, but it is what I've just got out of, and so you're always going to compare what you're driving to what you've just driven. Now the clutch is really heavy, and oh yeah, I mean it'll go around the bend, but it doesn't feel like it's especially happy about it. Direction changes induce a bit of body roll. You can feel the front end and the back end, and the front end does want to wash wide a little bit, and then I'm told with not too much provocation the back end will then want to kick out as well. So you've really got to know what you're doing with this car. You can heel and toe in it. The gearbox is actually really nice. Everything else is quite soft and mushy, and this isn't a Lotus, this is more like a Jaguar. It's just before 3,000 RPM that those turbos spin up, and those rear tyres look quite meaty on this car, but they are only 265 section. Wow, it does shift. I don't have to quantify this car. I don't have to say that, oh, this must be quite quick for 1992. No, this is a quick car. You can't throw it around a corner like you can a modern super saloon, and that's the truth of it. Any sort of mild hot hatch is going to be all over this thing. Any sort of twisties, I mean, a Fiesta ST will be gone, just disappear. But there's something rather majestic about the feeling of piloting this. It's rare that I get in a car and I feel like I'm kind of wrestling it around. A lot of cars I drive are quite delicate, quite soft. I took a TVR Tuscan down this road only yesterday. If you haven't seen that video, do watch it, because that was the polar opposite to this. Very light, very delicate, and it sounded like thunder. This thing is pulverizing the road. Now, I've not driven a standard Carlton. In fact, I've never even sat in a Lotus Carlton or a Vauxhall one before today. But this does still feel like there's a lot of Vauxhall in there. You know, it's the interior is basically Vauxhall. You got a few Lotus badges smattered around the place, but otherwise it is pretty much ordinary Vauxhall saloon car. And that's what is cool about it. I mean, you can have fun, you can put your foot down, and it's far faster than you imagine it could possibly be. But then, when you've had your fun, you can relax, you can calm down, and quite unlike a lot of Lotus products, you just take it easy, and this is soft, and it's refined, and it's quite well put together. The only thing rattling in here is my camera, and it's a nice place to be. It's got air conditioning, it's got a stereo. It's a good car. It's a really good car. The prices of these are going up all the time, and I can kind of see why. Apparently the owners group loses about one car every year because, well, you need to respect them. And even if you do, I can see how very easy it is to get it very wrong. Your traction control here is a combination of a gentle right foot and a limited slip diff at the back, and that's about it. So if things start to go wrong, you better hope that you can save the car, because it's not going to sort your shit out for you. It is really from a different time. And it's so comfy. It is a real businessman's Express. I'm quite amazed actually at how plush it feels. All right, it doesn't look it with the cheap old Vauxhall switchgear, but just to be in here, even considering the fact that this car is 27 years old, it's the perfect place to be if you've got to catch your Concorde flight and you're a bit late. It'll get you there. Anyway, I'm going to be revisiting this car at some point, hopefully this year, and talking to the people at John Ashley about them and how they are to run and to live with. And if you are considering buying one, I would strongly recommend giving them a call, because it is exactly the kind of car that really does benefit from specialist attention, and they can give it that, and they can certainly help you find and source a good one. They're in fact currently restoring several of them as well. So this isn't just a plug piece. They are good people and they are enthusiasts as well, which I find is always really important. The business actually came out of the fact that this car's owner worked on his own vehicle and started to know them inside and out, and people just brought him their cars to work on because they saw how good his was. This isn't cosmetically perfect, in fact far from it, and it will get restored at some point in the future, but as a driving experience, it's mega. Anyway, please let me know what you guys would like to know about this legendary super saloon. For now, thanks for watching. Please hit the like button if you haven't already. Do comment below and subscribe, especially if this isn't the first video of mine that you've watched, because it does make a really big difference to me and the channel and makes things like this all the more possible. See you for the next one. Bye-bye.